Neira is muted or not? Okay, thank you. Hello to our virtual participants, our vast group there. I hope I see that you can see us. Let's wave to them. They will wave to us later in introduction part. Okay, while Neira, again, mute please. Sorry for this. Mic is not problem. So to everybody who is listening now, as you could meet Neira Kadić-Meškić, she's our co-facilitator for the visual part. And this is Mabruka Rajaci. She's co-facilitator for physical part along with me. So let's start with introductions. We will... Everything fine? Neira? Okay. Can virtual participants wave or react? Send us a little heart or something. We need warmth, human connection. Did they do anything? We don't see them. Yeah, maybe she's. Finding a reason why to take off. Yeah. There are names of the participants. If you don't pronounce their names, they don't want to. It's Andre Orfer. Andre.
But you can just ask them to turn it on.
Please, our virtual participant, please turn. Neira, mute. Sorry. Sorry for other inconvenience. Please, virtual participants, to turn on your cameras so we can see you. Andrew, thank you. Who else? Zdenka, can you turn on your, just for a couple of minutes for the introduction part so we can see you here, and then you can turn off. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we can start with short introductions. I hope this will, okay. I will start. Basically, I would like you to shortly tell us your name, organization, where you're based, where you're from, and maybe your favorite fruit. So my name is Tanja Rajc-Tarčuki. I work for many organizations since I'm freelancer for 17 years now. Based is the same answer since I work in the United States, Africa, and Europe. East Europe, to be exact, and I'm from Mostar, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and my favorite fruit is figs. Yeah. So my co-facilitator, Mabruka, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's on.
You need. Okay. They need to hear you.
My name is Mabruka. I am from Vienna. I am the supervisor of Islamic religious teaching in Lower Austria. And I am engaged in many states projects about integration and migration in Austria. My favorite food is orange.
Okay, so we'll skip Italy.
And you need to include online participants first. That is why you are, and then feel free to.
Okay, of course. So my name is Neira Kadić-Meškić, and I'm coming from Croatia, from its capital Zagreb. I work in organization that in an NGO The name of the organization is Center for Cultural Dialogue, so we are much focused on interreligious and intercultural dialogue. And my favorite fruit are apples. It's pretty much simple. Okay, now I would now kindly ask our online participants, we have 2 of them, to present themselves. So Mr. Andrej Orton, and we have Mrs. Zdenka Milovojevic, I guess. So please, Andrej, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Andrew Orton. I contributed to the plenary. I'm from Durham University, where I've been Director of Education in a department. I'm not an education specialist in the sense of schools, but obviously have a broader role in terms of interest in faith communities and their sort of social contributions and some of the responses to discrimination. My favourite food is cake, and I'm sorry I'm having to join you via screen and not partake in all your food with you.
We wish the same too. Thank you. Zdenka, please.
Hello, I am Zdenka Milivojevic. I am working in primary school in Serbia. I have worked on many projects about intercultural education and child rights. And my favorite fruit is strawberry.
Thank you, Zdenka. Now we will, after lunch, since we just had lunch, maybe even ask in the restaurant to have some, since I'm already craving all the fruits that we already heard, let alone now in the rest of the group. Who wants to introduce themselves now? You can just take a round. Yeah? Okay, go ahead.
Is it on?
Yes, it's on. All the mics are on.
Great.
Be careful with this.
Good, good. So my name is John. I'm from Denmark, and I'm here with the Network for Dialogue, and also in the presence as a diversity and inclusion consultant for World Organization of the Scout Movement. My favorite fruit, a mango.
Oh. Who wants to go next? Okay, let's.
My name is Johannes Langer. I'm leading the Europe region program at the International Dialogue Center KAICIID, and my favorite fruit is bananas.
My name is Suadonni Selkä. I'm working as a principal in comprehensive school in Eastern Helsinki, Finland. My favorite fruit is pineapple.
Oh, hello, my name is Eduardo Coa. I'm from Portugal, from the High Commission for Migration. I'm the head of the International Relations Unit. I don't work directly with the education area, so I'm here basically to learn from your experience. Well, in fact, I like all the fruits, but I will highlight watermelon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Helen Liebling. I work in the UK. I have 3 separate roles, 2 jobs. I work at Coventry and Warwick Universities, and I carry out research with conflict survivors of sexual gender-based violence and torture, particularly in the African continent, recently with South Sudanese refugees in northern Uganda, but also refugees in the UK. And I'm also 2 days a week in the health service where I'm clinical lead for refugee well-being. And my favorite fruit was mango, but I also like kiwi. Thank you.
This is turning to be a really good fruit salad.
Yeah.
Thank you, Helen. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lola Hasanovic. I come from Belgrade, Serbia. I worked for a Serbian mission in United Nations in New York for a couple of years while I did my master's degree there. And then I worked with several NGOs in Belgrade, and now I'm doing the same, mostly about minorities, women's rights, etc. So education, I'm here to learn more about it, honestly. Thank you.
Thank you, Lola. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Patrice Brodeur. I'm senior advisor at KAICIID, and I'm also a teacher at the University of Montreal in Canada.
Thank you, Patrice. Neira, pass along.
Thank you. I'm Renato.
I'm from Rome, Italy, but I'm based in Brussels, Belgium, representing Don Bosco International, which is the liaison office of the Salesians of Don Bosco with the European institutions in Brussels. So we are working mainly with children and young people in schools, vocational education and training centers, and also non-formal education. Looking forward to learning from you.
Thank you, Renato. Mary?
My name is Mary Constellatamagambe. I'm from Denmark. Yeah. I am a lawyer by profession, but I am an activist. I am an anti-racist activist, and I also work with women in Uganda, but that's a different story. It's not something I'm going to talk about. And I'm looking forward to talking about my work.
Thank you, Mary. And before... Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Shaza, originally from Syria. I'm living in Germany. I used to work with UNHCR before, then I turned to be a refugee myself. My focus of work is women, SGBV cases at that moment, but now I'm advocating for refugee rights and meaningful participation for everyone, AGDM and so. My official working is a research assistant in the Leibniz Institute. My fruit, I'm not that fan for fruits actually, but yeah, manga is okay.
Chocolate.
Not chocolate as well, but yeah. Mango.
Thank you, Shaza. And before we announce our last participant, maybe you should introduce yourself and continue speaking, because this is our first input speaker to set the stage for our conversation later. Alexandra, Marques.
Thank you. So my name you already know, it's Alexandra. I'm a teacher originally on my career, and that's my identity. I feel as a teacher today, and I work for 35 years in education, so but I'm a teacher. At the moment, I work with the Yagacom Foundation, Portugal, as director of education. And it's in that position that I will try to bring some inputs to start our discussion. And differently from the previous colleague, I could live from fruit. So it's difficult for me to choose one, but I will take cherries. Okay? I don't like chocolate. Okay, so it's my privilege to be here and to have this opportunity to share with you some of the work that the Yagacom Foundation is doing, and from there try to start the conversation, and that's, I think, is the purpose. And I would like to thank you to KAICIID for the invitation. It's my second privileged occasion to be in this forum. I was in Athens, and so I'm very happy to be here, and for the foundation it's also a good opportunity to enlarge and to network and to share what we are doing and learn from this large variety of organizations and learnings that are in presence for the next 3 days. So thank you for that. And I would like, if you don't mind, just to say something about the Yagacom Foundation. I can imagine that probably not all of you know the Yagacom Foundation. So we are an international organization. It's a private non-profit, non-for-profit international or development international agency, and we are part of a network that is bigger than the foundation. But we are one of the 13 agencies on that network, so we are a small part of it. But education is mainly on the Yagacom Foundation, on the Yagacom University, the Yagacom Academies, and also the Yagacom Education Services. We are in Portugal since 1983, so it's a while for us here in Portugal, but we operate in more than 30 countries as a foundation. Mainly in Africa, Eastern Europe, and Asia. In Europe, it's only in Portugal, and we have a small unit in Russia to support the refugees and migrants coming from Afghanistan mainly. Okay, So our vision and our values are mainly to bring human, financial, and technical resources to address some of the challenges, the societal big challenges that we are facing, and focusing and supporting mainly the more poorest and marginalized communities in the countries where we operate. So we try to invest in human potential, expanding opportunities, and improving quality of life. This is a key expression for us. This is the main goal of all the work that we do, is to promote quality of life for everybody. So how we do it, we try to lead and range an integrated and innovative gender-responsive interventions. We are not only working on producing knowledge, we are also doing that, but coming from action, from real intervention with the communities. So quality of life, participation, equity are key values for all the work that we do. So bottom up, it's our language, participation and involving, co-creating. These are key ways of doing, and that's where EPDF is positioned in the way it operates. So we work with people, for people, to serve them and promote that equity and the right to the quality of life for everybody. Of course, we do that with the purpose to contribute for the transformation and for the change, the societal change, social change, but that will happen only if people are in the process since the very early beginning. So, and that's why education is a key part of all the work that we do across the world. The foundation was founded by Prince Aga, and he always said that there are non-negotiable dimensions of human life in all the work that we have to do, and one is investing in early years. It's until this moment I didn't heard speaking when addressing education about the pregnancy and the first years on life, and that is something that it's not negotiable for the Yagacom Foundation. So a big part of our work is addressing the first 9 years in life, but targeting for sure pregnancy in the first 3 years, and then the next 3, and then the next 3, because those are the capital years on everyone's life. So we are investing a lot on ECD, early childhood development programs, and that is for all our programs are gender driven, and more intentionally on our communication and in our design of programs, gender and sustainability are there. So in education, it's everything that we do from 9 years on formal and non-formal education. It's a lifelong learning approach. So we are targeting not only the migrants and the refugees, but we are looking, as we try to do always, in a more integrated, holistic way. So how can we promote from our actions the quality of life, the well-being, the right to belong, the right to the identity, the right to intercultural belonging also. So all the work that we are doing in education, and now focusing on formal education, that means school and everything around the school, that means the learning communities, the educative communities, parents, companies, NGOs, civil society organizations. That's the whole school approach that we are always pursuing. And coming from the paper that we received, there are two key components that are highlighted on that paper that is also part of our approach. It's investing on teachers. it's investing on communities as an important component. And communities, we are starting with families, parents. So, and why? Because we really think that they are the trigger, they are the driver for the transformation and for the change. And if the narrative needs to change, for sure we need to engage teachers and engage families in that process. And that is more important even for migrants and refugees, and also for the most vulnerable ones. Early in this morning, our Secretary of State brought all the good policies that we have. We did a huge progress in what regards to integration, inclusion, but for EPDF, we are always navigating from bringing people to the policies and bringing policies to the real life. And how we do that? Working with people, working with civil society organizations. So we work in the communities. We are mainly on urban territories and on the big cities. So what we're trying to do is giving life to policies with people. And in education, for sure, we need to do that with teachers. And to work with teachers, we are addressing mainly what is pedagogy. How do you give access to all children to the school? So have they access, and how the policies to promote inclusion and integration of migrants and refugees are doing that. We need to help families to navigate the system, but also to improve the system to be available to understand the diversity of ways to see parenting roles, to see learning, to see how the teacher role is perceived by different cultures. So we are really try to be in the school and try to invest on professional development of teachers, not only in pre-service, and I really think that in Portugal that is an urgency because we are in more or less a turnover of older teachers and not enough young teachers to replace them. And even with demography, we have less and less children in the schools. But now, with migrants and refugees coming, that is creating a new demographic opportunity for raise birth rates, to create other disposition to give birth. So we need to promote that kind of conditions to the system. So working with teachers is very, very important, pre-service and in-service. And that it's when we are addressing integration of migrants and refugees, that means giving them skills to address diversity, to address a plural society that we are living on. So I'm bringing pluralism as a key value for Yagacom Foundation. So we were discussing at lunchtime that what is integration for you? What is inclusion? What is exclusion? And what we are bringing is pluralism as a core value of EPDF work. As we are trying to change from an inclusive approach to a pluralistic approach. And what means pluralism for us is something that we have to learn, and we have to learn living together. And that means starting from identity. We need to really know ourselves, to engage with each other, and to creating that culture of encounter, being and willing to be with others. Saying this, I would like only to briefly highlight some 4 programs, and I will start with a program that the Secretary of State brought this morning as one of the 5 policies of the way of policies are implemented, and it's the Intercultural Education Schools Network. This is a program that was piloted for 3 years and is now in expansion, and is a joint program from the ministry through the High Commission of Migration, the Ministry of Education, and the Yagacom Foundation as a civil society organization. So we are working with schools. They are more or less 200 at this moment, and we are working with school leaders, teachers, and other technicians, and even some parents' associations that are committed in a process to improve their skills on what regards to intercultural education. And we are addressing that on 3 pillars. That means the governance, the curriculum, and the involvement of families and communities. So this is a process. We are on the 2nd year of expansion, and this is starting to give some results. The other program that I would like to bring to you is an Erasmus project, and I think it's important to highlight the importance of Erasmus as a co-funding line that has brought many, many opportunities to research and learning in Europe, and especially on the key action 3 and 2 that is addressing specifically the migrant and refugees. So in the system, I said, and we believe that teachers are drivers and enablers, but we have other professionals, and the assistants, the less qualified in the system are very, very important, especially to promote support to the families, support to the children in the school. So we invested in a project, and we have a roadmap to facilitate the training, in-service training for assistants coming from an approach that is educare. How do you promote education, but ensuring that care is also there? Is safety, is well-being, and those human dimensions that are important. So we have a roadmap and we have tools, because I don't believe that the change will come only from schools or in-class trainings. We need tools, we need action research, we need to produce evidence from the field. And that's something that this kind of project is promoting. Another project that I think is it's a big challenge for the Yagacom Foundation at the moment is a 10 years project in 10 countries that we named Schools 2030. And this is trying to produce evidence from the schools. We are using human-centered design to co-create with the schools to identify what is already working in the schools. To track if children are accessing the schools, if they are staying at the school and they are learning. So it's assessment not only concerning core curriculum competences, but also social emotional competences. And finally, I'm finishing. If they are learning what is meaningful for them at the present and for their future. So this is a 10 years project in 10 countries. And we really need to identify and communicate what the school is producing, what is working here that can inspire others and make the difference in other geographies. So Schools 2030, and I can tell you more about that project later on, but this is something that the Yagacom Foundation and other foundations, it's a consortium of foundations. We are really trying to produce innovation, but once again, coming from human-centered design, combined with a more psychometric evaluation on 3 cohorts, 5, 10, and 15 years old. So this is something that might, and of course we are addressing migrant and refugees education, but in this perspective that we are a plural society, so we need to address the needs of each one, but looking for the whole environment in a more integrated and holistic and fair way. So I hope this can inspire some discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Since the next speaker is supposed to, or she will be adding on to this input speech first, maybe if you have any questions, maybe to write them down, to have discussion freeing flowly after the second speaker, which is Mary Consolata-Namagambe. Did I pronounce it there?
Very good.
So you go ahead, and then we will open the floor for questions, virtual participants included. So feel free to write or just wave and raise hands if you have any questions or you would like to speak. Mary, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I would like to start my talk with asking you a question, and then I will just give you 1 minute to think about it. So I just want you to close your eyes and then imagine being young, sitting with your parents and doing homework. You can open your eyes now. You still thinking about it? So the reason why I start my speech with doing this is that I can imagine that many of you have sat around the table with your parents and did homework. Can you raise your hands up if you have done that? Yes. I was not one of the lucky ones that had parents that could help me do my homework when I was a kid, because my family was busy having double shifts working. And I remember going to gymnasium in Denmark and going home to my friend's place and then seeing her, thank you, and then seeing her sitting with her parents doing homework. And I remember just looking at them and thinking how lucky she was, because she was there discussing with her mom and dad, oh, I want to write an essay, but I don't know what to write. And her dad was like, oh, maybe you should write about this. Maybe you should write about this. And I was like, if I had that, how would my education life look like? To go home to my parents and discuss the society that I was living in, or to discuss things I had to write about. And since I did not have that, I thought about all the other minorities in Denmark, especially young people who do not have this opportunity to go home and be like, I have a problem with this essay or with math. Can you help me with this? So when I was 21, I began an organization called Mælkebythuset. It's a flower house. I don't know the flower in English. And we welcomed mostly refugees and immigrants. And we had up to 50 kids 3 times a week that came and did their homework. And you know, like thinking about a problem and then doing something about it, but not knowing how huge of a problem it is for kids to not gain access to being helped when they have to do their homework. But that's not only the thing we did, because our house became a place that was also a place that the kids were taught about Danish traditions. We had Danish Christmas, we had Oreen, we had Eid parties, but also parents began coming with their kids to learn how to help their kids if we were not there. And from that, we had that house for like 4 years. And then I began studying law. And when I began studying law, there was a lot of minorities in Denmark writing to me. Hey, Mary, how did you apply? Hey, Mary, how is it to be the only black girl at the university? And many people had different questions about what it means to be a minority in the education system. And again, I thought, okay, if so many people are writing to me, maybe we should have a forum where you can communicate with other minorities. So we did a forum called Foreigners Guiding Foreigners about education. And we had over 250 volunteers from different educations, from teachers to medical students. And the only purpose with our organization was to inspire other immigrants, refugees that come to Denmark with the hope of having an education, but they don't know where to start. And sometimes it's easier when you see somebody who looks like you doing something, and then you maybe have the courage to be like, hey, I can also do it. So we had this organization with 250 volunteers, and we also had volunteers that went around schools. We went to schools where we had mostly minorities, and we want them to know that there are people in the society that looks like you, that came to Denmark from war, took an education, and now they are doing this. So we went on a school tour in Denmark and visited so many schools. And again, it was really encouraging to see young kids being like, can I also be that? And we were like, yeah, look, there's an example. And this person comes from the same country as you. From that, we also had conversations with girls, Muslim girls, that were living with their parents, but they were enrolled in, for example, a university that was not in the city where their parents live. And they didn't know what to do. They were like, I just got into my dream education, but I have to go back home and tell my parents that I have to move out, and I'm not married. And many of them didn't want to go to their school counselor and ask them what to do, because if they went to their school counselor, they would not understand the tradition of not leaving their home. But our counselors had often been through the same experience, so they would go home to their girls' parents and tell them, hey, look at me, I moved from my home and now I have graduated and everything's fine, nothing happened. So when we were doing counseling, it was also understanding the traditions that the normal counselors at schools will not understand when these kids will go to them to get helped. And that's a really big problem, I think, in many European countries, not only Denmark, that when we think about what's the norm, we often take the norm of the majorities and not the minorities. So it doesn't mean that if, for example, one of the girl's families or dad didn't want her to move out of the house, it's not because he doesn't want her to have an education or he's just worried about her. But how do we have the conversation with the dad so he will be not worried about her daughter moving to another city? And from that on, we also had created a platform where students will meet other students. Like we will have like once a year, we'll have like a forum where you can come, instead of coming to your university and only meeting white counselors or white students, you meet students that look like you that will counsel you for free in this forum. I'm not going to talk that much, but if I can conclude on anything, I think that there's often a rhetoric about refugees, immigrants, that sometimes they are lazy, they don't want to study. But sometimes it's not that people are lazy. Sometimes people are not encouraged, and people are not they are not seen and they're not heard. And because you have an accent, it doesn't mean you can become a doctor. Because you came to a country after you've been in a war, it doesn't mean that you don't have dreams. So I'm very proud that we have an organization that could see people's dreams and also tell them that you are not your background and you have a future. So when working with education and refugees and minorities, remember that these people have dreams and they also want to go somewhere, but sometimes it's about sitting down and understanding them and not just putting them in a box because they don't belong to the norm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary and Alexandra. Okay, just a quick note. Mics are so good that virtual participants can hear us even if it's not too close. So whoever is speaking next can feel free to be relaxed about it. Who wants to comment or have any questions for Mary and Alexandra? Virtual participants, feel free to raise your hands if you wish to engage. Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. When I was listening to Alexandra, thank you very much. Thank you. When I was listening to Alexandra, it came to my mind that I think it is very important to mention at this forum the importance that we gave in Portugal on the partnerships with the civil society. And the Yagacom Foundation, of course, it's one of our main partners, and it is very, very good being at the same table and at the same discussion. In fact, we didn't know each other before, but of course we know the work that each of one institution is developing. Regarding the education, I just would like to highlight a program that we have in Portugal. It is run by the High Commission for Migration. It calls the Choices Program. It doesn't target specifically schools or the fight against school dropout, but it is more broad program, but of course it targets those two areas. At this moment, we have 105 projects spread all across the country. It targets thousands of persons between children and youngsters and their families. And the main idea is to have local consortiums. So each project is a local consortium, providing a creation of a local project between the municipality, the schools, local NGOs. They have to provide the project. We finance a part, other part should be financed by them. So it is a truly engagement project, and it targets not only migrant descendants, also refugees, Roma, because in Portugal we also have a big Roma community, but also children and youngsters from the mainstream society. So it is a program that targets all the persons. It has a very diverse approach, and following what our Secretary of State mentioned this morning, the importance of having those mainstreaming areas, and like Alexandra mentioned, and of course we also apply that in terms of gender mainstreaming and all of that. We also have that approach within the society, and we want to support all the persons. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yeah, go ahead. You have 3 mics on among yourself.
Yeah, I just want to highlight how what she said about this bridge building between the community and the institutions. She is one who understands what to do, because she is a migrant, not a migrant, maybe you are born in Denmark, but she is the other. But she with her situation, she knows the narratives in the community and the norms, how girls are suffering because the father has many fear to lose his daughters and to prevent her from taking part in many things. But she knows these norms, and she tries to make this bridge, to build this bridge, and this is very important in our work. Because otherwise, we work in a system, we make many projects in a system, but we don't have this to the community. So it is very difficult to reach some objectives and this is what I want to highlight. Thank you very much. You have inspired me because I am doing the same thing, but with the small children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabruka. Go ahead.
I have two questions for Mary, who's also inspired me, because we've just started a mentoring scheme at the university, and I can't believe it's taken so long to start it. But yeah, my two questions are, how do you allocate volunteers to refugees and schools? Are they matched? And what are the kind of gender issues that come up? And then my second question is, what do you think can be done to change attitudes to refugees in education so they are seen and they are heard and their skills and expertise are really valued by the education system? Thank you.
So in regards to getting volunteers, in regards to getting volunteers, Facebook was did everything for us. But also in regards to having events that is targeted minorities when it comes to education. When we had those different events targeting minorities, a lot of people will hear about our work and then they will volunteer. The other thing, we went to universities where we just had a stand while they had lunch breaks, and people would come by and then we would tell them what our work was. And then it just becomes mouth to mouth, and then we knew, for example, that there were some education where we would not have volunteers. We would write to the university and come before the lecture begins, and then we'll have 5 minutes to be like, hey, we're from UVU, we need volunteers, we have put flyers on your chairs, please check us out, and then people will write to us. So it depends where you stay, how is the environment, do you have universities you can go to, are there some events for students you can go and give out flyers and things like that. But I also think that the reason why we got a lot of volunteers was because we also were minorities ourselves. So it was minorities to minorities. So people understood the problem because we have been there ourselves. When I communicate to the volunteers, they were like, yeah, I wish I had somebody who could help me with my homework, or I wish I had somebody who had studied this because then it would be easier for me. So this thing of having a common feeling of what it means to be a minority is very important. And then in regards to the other question, how minorities or refugees can be seen and heard in the education society and feel like they can contribute to the society. In this session, we talked a lot about, in the first session, there was this talk about refugees and minorities being a resource to the different countries. And one of the questions I had was that if you take a taxi anywhere in the world, even in Denmark, and you talk to the taxi driver, they will be like, oh, I was an engineer, I was a doctor, I had a PhD. And then you're like, but you drive a taxi now? Yeah, I've been doing that for 10 years. So the question is also asking our governments, why don't we want to tap into that resource that the different minorities and refugees have? But this also goes back to that minorities sometimes don't feel like that they are welcome to different spaces, and if the spaces are mostly white, how do you make those spaces comfortable for me to feel like I can study at different universities, and also that my voice can be heard, because sometimes we do have different perspectives of the world. And if you have a white lecturer seeing the world with one eye, and I put my hands up, I'm like, hey, are you sure that's like that? Is that welcomed at the universities? And I think that minorities have to empower minorities so they know that there's a space for them, because I don't know who's going to do that otherwise. And also, last comment, when we talk about
like when we read books at universities, who has written the books, who is the smart person, who is not the smart person. And I think that really plays a large part in if you want to be a part of something where you are not seen as somebody who can contribute.
Thank you, Mary and Helen, for good questions. Anybody else? I would like, go ahead.
If I can, okay. Actually, I have questions for first speaker. I follow also what the person from your government also said about these programs that you mentioned in your speech also. And in general, in this program of Intercultural School Network, I'm interested, so you said which stakeholders are actually part of the network, but I'm interested in what they do in the network. Okay, they gather, they have some kind of meetings, they exchange their experiences, let's say it like that. Do they have any kind of education, trainings, moderations, or something like that? And also regarding to this third program that you mentioned, Schools 2030, you mentioned 10 years in 10 countries. Maybe just which countries are these, and when this program started? 2020, last year? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Regarding the schools, Intercultural Schools Network, the work is done in network, and we have three main activities that are promoted from the consortium. We have a technical team that organizes that, but with the teams. So we are bringing teachers to that organization of those activities. And they are mainly monthly encounters that are coming from the teams, the questions that they are raising in the school. So they identify what are the focus that they would like to discuss, and we bring people that can add knowledge, but also coming from examples, tools that can inspire their practices. Those are monthly meetings that on the last year happened online. Now we are trying and willing to give life to them face-to-face, but smoothly. And the other activity is sharing of practices. So they propose to be the next group of schools to present their practices. And this is happening each month. They have one of those three activities. So sharing of practice, encounters that are bringing some specialists that might be a teacher, but also a university person or someone from abroad, and inspirational workshops. So we bring someone that can inspire from their own practice, from their own knowledge. And this might be a parent, a teacher, a student, because in our schools, in our education system, is very, very uncommon to give space to students. So the network is also trying to empower teachers. As Mary was saying, it's not only a question. Students are a minority independent of their background. So how can we empower and give voice to students, to children and youngsters? So the network is also trying through this activity, this is inspirational workshops that even students can come and share their practices and what they bring to the table. Okay, so these are the main three activities from the network, and this year we are trying also to go to more, to produce some tools that can monitoring and evaluate at the local level what is happening. Okay, so they are selecting one of the pillars and one or two pillars, but what will be the focus of transformation that they will engage for this school year, and to find tools that can enable monitoring and evaluation. Otherwise, it's good to be together, but if we cannot operate any change, it doesn't work to be together just for the pleasure to be together. We need to make the change happen in the schools. So the Schools 2030, it should be fully in the schools, in the communities since last year, but it was not possible to do that. So we invested a lot on networking among the 10 countries. We produced many tools regarding human-centered design, and we addressed the COVID-19, how the challenge to learning from home was emerging in each country. And the countries, I can tell you, it's Afghanistan. Brazil is the only country where AKF, the Yagacom Foundation, is not operational. We don't have a unit, so it's the Itaú Foundation that is funding and is operating the program in Brazil. Then is India, Kenya, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Portugal, Tajikistan, Tanzania, and Uganda. So very diverse set of countries, very diverse contexts and realities. So I think this is to produce operational, feasible solutions that are in place. And that's something that we are trying to map, solutions that are operational, that can produce effects, and we will have hopefully 1,000 solutions, and they will be in a resource database that is available for all the world. This is a small contribution for SDG 4 and for the improvement of quality of education and learning environments, because sometimes we focus so much on competences, on core curriculum, and we don't address the quality of learning environments. And this is the two main purposes of Schools 2030. It's really to address, of course, knowledge and capacities, but as I said, attitudes and values. And for that, we really need to invest in the quality of learning environments. That means time, space, materials, interactions, involvement, participation. That's the quality of the learning environments that we are speaking. It's not only technology. It's human technology. Okay, thank you for the question. And maybe I can add something about Portugal, because we are addressing migrants and refugees. Refugees are not yet, it's a very recent hosting group for us, so we are also learning, and of course we need to know much more about that. But with migrants, it's a quite different situation. We came from be immigrants until 20 years ago to become a host country of migrants. So it's from there that we are learning. But we have fourth, fifth generation of migrants, mainly from our former colonies, but also from Brazil and East Africa, Eastern Europe. So they were the most, or the first mass migrant wave that we had, so we are learning. But what is important when we are addressing education is even we have fifth generation of migrants, so their grandfathers were the first on the education system. When we come to in success on education and early dropout, the high rate is still on children with migrant background. So that's something that very serious, and that we are trying to address, and Yagacom Foundation is really invested on trying to make a difference on the way the school and the society and the municipalities and the policies as a whole operate. How really can promote, and Schools 2030 is a way to bring this up and make more visible that there are solutions that are feasible, that don't require too much money. They really require a different approach, different values, and different pedagogies.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the program and the project that you have in Portugal, actually we have something similar in Germany. It's 5 years project called RIGES, refugee in the German educational system. I don't know if you heard about it. Yes. So what we did again is almost the same. So we have 2 cohorts, okay, moment just to have the adults, which is like from 14 to 18, who's in the secondary school and so, and the people pre the school, like from the children from 4 to 8. And the project itself, it's 5 years project. It's like they still continue with the same group, the same sample. It's like 2,500 for each cohort. They have studied the intern, the parents, the children, the teachers, the municipality, everyone who is working and have a touch with the children. The purpose is to see the gaps and where is the opportunity to improve the integration, if we can say, of the children in the educational system. And it was in many different languages. At the beginning, we had 8 languages because it's for refugees and migrants. So we have Arabic, Kurdish, Kurmanji. We have English, French, Urdu, Persish. So many. It's like 8 years. And it was really hectic. Then afterwards, Tigrinda also for Eritrean people. So it's too much languages. And it's like interview with the parents, with the children, with the adults alone, and within the family. So it's totally a big project. It was ended this year, the project, but we're still working on it. And we have extension. It's not extension, another project for 5 years, but it's more about the training for those young people, the one who is finished the school, what they did. So they will follow them because it's the same group to see where they are now. And I think it's really important because if you want to improve the community, you have to start by education. And if the people in the early stage have some problems and deformation, so they will grow up with it's not healthy situation. So what we noticed that the children who grow up there, it's more integrated. However, the language has a big role for the parents and for the children. For the kids are trying to be more integrated if they start from early stage. So we didn't find any problems with the kindergarten, but the problems almost in the upper stage where they just come as a stranger to start their school year, and it's really hectic. We try to have many angles, like social, political, cultural. We ask the family about everything in their life, how they wear, what the occupation that parents have, and how that all implemented and also have a role in the children. And I think it's really important, and it's a good opportunity that the government really need to do something and to improve. And I find it really good, and you can just go on search like RIGES, R-E-G-E-S, and you will find a lot of results and everything. So, I think it's important, and we can follow, or we can do something in our countries. Yeah.
Just a note that we are not tracking individuals. We are more interested in tracking the change in the organizations. Okay. So it's cultural of the organizations, what is really changing, because that will serve more and more children. That doesn't mean that we could not consider to do some case studies from individuals or clusters of individuals, of cluster of schools, but the main purpose is to track the change of the organizational culture.
Thank you, Shazo and Alexandra. Both you have mics, both of you.
Yes, thank you to both speakers. Very inspiring. My question is addressed primarily to Mary, because I'm interested in finding out more about how you run such a large volunteer organization and where the funds, if any, are coming from, and how you make this miracle happen.
We had, the way we ran the organization was on our website. So you could go into our website, and within the website you will click on which education you want, and then under that there will be all the counselors. And then you will be able to email the counselor, and they will get your email, and they will get an alert on their phone that somebody has emailed them, and then they have like within 7 days to answer you back. So that was like it was by itself, but also because everybody who was there as volunteers were not counselors before, we got real counselors to do workshops. So before you became a counselor, you did a workshop with us. So you were like ready to talk to these young people. In regards to fundings, we didn't know much about fundings when we began. It was mostly because we were passionate about it and we saw it was a problem. So none of us were paid to do the work, but we did events, and you could, there's like a space called Nørrebro in Denmark, and they have like something called local funds. So if you do an event in these different cities, you can apply for money to do the event. So that's what we often did. And then after some, I think 3 years, we got some funds from different communes, and that was like not only Copenhagen, but other big cities where we were also doing the work. But we were really young. Like now that I'm grown, I can see, okay, we could have done some things differently, because you cannot only run on you are passionate about something. People have to be paid and things like that. Yes.
Thank you, Patrick. Renata?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to share also our experience about what you shared, and thank you for what you shared, first of all. And I think that we share this vision where education doesn't stop when the school or university bell rings. I mean, when the bell rings, maybe children and young people, they think, okay, let's finish today. Okay, but we know, and luckily sometimes, luckily it doesn't stop there. And we heard stories about how in Portugal you try to get migrant families or refugee families, how you try to provide them with more equitable access to compulsory formal education. And we heard like in Denmark you try to support at home also, or after the school, or when looking for university, with this orienteering. It doesn't stop when the bell rings, as I said. And we share this vision, and so looking at the title of our track, number 3, ensuring equitable access to compulsory formal education for refugees and migrants. I would say that, at least this is our experience, we have a work to do within formal education, at school, at university, and so on, but there is a partnership, bridges we have to build always between formal education and non-formal, informal context where education can also be supported, promoted, developed with these beneficiaries and partners. So our experience of good practices is about localized multi-stakeholder partnerships, where you have the school, the university, but also civil society actors, local communities, including religious actors. And so my question for both of you would be also, because I believe that very often with families and young people with migrant background, we also work a lot with unaccompanied minors from third countries. There are a lot of barriers, challenges. Sometimes it's about information gaps. Sometimes it's the language in the beginning, then there's cultural traditions, and then sometimes also motivation, no? Because, you know, with many also young people who are refugees in Europe, there's also how to motivate to go back to education. Maybe they had previous formal experience of education, and then my question would be, how do you also accompany this orienteering? And because we hear a lot of story of success, no, in this access to education of these beneficiaries, but sometimes there's also failure. So I would like to go to university and get that master degree, but then I fail. And then how to accompany orienteering and to find different tracks, please.
So thank you for the question. I think that's a challenge. Maybe coming from the information that we received from the Secretary of State, of course, we have 7% of migrants in Portugal, and they are giving 6% for our income as a country. But in fact, we are not yet where we would need to be in what regards to recognizing qualifications. And Mary was saying, I'm a taxi driver and I have a PhD in medicine. So we are not yet in the proper position that we probably should and need to be in recognition the qualifications of origin countries. So people are not, all the qualified people that we have among migrant communities, I think we have not yet created the full potential of those people for themselves, but also for the country. And I think this is something regarding tracking and full inclusiveness of as a society. And that is also happening with schooling, academic qualifications. Of course, the access is granted for all the refugees and migrants. The conditions in the school for them to succeed is a different thing. And that's why we are investing in an intercultural schools network. We are investing on pedagogies, on participatory approaches to the school, in all school approaches, because that's the way we can provide organizational, cultural, that really can operate that condition for success. But on the other hand, we have 90% of the early dropouters are migrants. So Yagacom Foundation for the last 3 years has, for instance, started to invest and learn how to do it in upskilling and reskilling. We have a need on the market for thousands of people for coding. So what we did, we went to the neighborhoods where we work on the street, all the youngsters that are trusting on us, with whom we work on the streets, not necessarily in the school, because they are already out of school. And we designed a program that is creating the reskilling. They are learning. They have a power-up first moment that is more invested on the social emotional, creating trust, self-image and other skills that they need, and then they go to the coding. And we started with a small group of 20. They are all employed for the last 2 years, and they are earning much more than people coming, just finishing a master's degree and can so this is a very, very important, and now we are trying to make this a model, try to improve it and scale it. Because this is the things that we really need to do, is to invest in upskilling, reskilling, but also invest on the environments where people should be, and especially children and youngsters should be at their proper age, because that's important. So maybe this is partly answering to your question.
Okay, I'll do it shortly. I think we are rounding up. So in regards to the motivation, we have, when we were working with students, we had 4 educations. That was that every parent wanted their kids to be: lawyer, doctor, engineer, and then I don't remember the last one. But so in regards to, of course, people do fail, and we have a lot of minorities that do go to university taking up education that they don't like or good at, just because their parents were like, this is the education, so you have to take. So when you go out and talk to these young people, it's also, as you said, very important to inspire them. What is out there? Because sometimes we really think this is the only 3 educations we have. So also it's our duty to inspire these young people to know that, hey, there are other educations, but also telling them you are not a failure if you don't become a lawyer. It's a very important subject to have with kids, with everybody who works here, to let them know that we all have different talents, but as minorities, sometimes we think that we have to have certain educations, and this also comes from that you have fled a war. There's so many other people that have died, but you are here in Denmark, for example. So you have to use the opportunity you have. But it doesn't mean that you are good at what your parents think you are good at. So, yes.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you to everybody. Since we are on time exactly to start our break, coffee break, after which we will have human library in the session above in the first big hall. I'm looking forward to it. It will be fun. Thank you to our input speakers. So tomorrow we will work on detail on these obstacles that we now shared, and go through input paper to end up hopefully with just 3 key recommendations for the plenary tomorrow evening. So it's really big day ahead of us tomorrow. It will be hectic, and we don't have a lot of time to do all that work, but I'm sure that this group have the strength to do it and knowledge. So we just should wave to our virtual participants. Thank you for being with us, and see you hopefully tomorrow in the morning. Bye. And for everybody else, we will see each other now in the break, and afterwards at Human Library at the big hall at 4:30. Yeah. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.